Hi, my name is Nadya Rousseau, your host of Nadya's Identity Files. By tuning in, you are part of a revolutionary conversation surrounding identity. And what is identity anyway? Why do we need to create an entire show around identity? Well, the answer is complicated but simple. In short, it sums up to the fact that we are disappearing as a population, mostly in two ways. Through the roles we feel bound to in society, either given to us or accepted, or through the sheer overpopulation of our world. Society mostly operates in the binary. The binary meaning black and white thinking. And as such, it forces us to accept our place, to accept our roles in society. And most often, these roles completely negate from our true core sense of selves, our true identities. And the roles that are given to us by society, they differ from person to person, but we're all met with the same dilemma. How do we curate our individualities in such a oversaturated population? How do we buck up against a system so deeply woven into the fabric of our environment in order to curate our own passions and our own sense of selves? Well, to start with, we have a conversation. We talk about it. And that's why I've decided to launch this show, to give people a platform and an open forum to discuss issues that are often swept under the rug. And on this show, we'll be talking about identity politics, selfhood, the media, a lot of issues surrounding identity that people are kind of uncomfortable to talk about. Now, going back to this oversaturation problem, our world is overflowing, and so our individualities are disappearing. Some may argue that we are actually living in one of the most individualistic times of our lives, especially in light of the millennial takeover, how we're all on social media, using social channels to display our respective identities. I mean, for those of us who have access to technology, who have that luxury, I think most of us have at least more than one social handle that we use to show off our individualities, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, on and on. But how much of what we're showcasing is really in line with who we are and not what we feel society wants us to be? That's something that a lot of us don't really think about. Every single one of us is unique. And we have a whole lot to bring to the table by way of our multiple identities. Yes, multiple. We all have more than one. In fact, we have probably more than two hands can count in terms of our identities. Race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexuality, profession, style, music. Even the environments where we grew up have a lot to do with our identities and how we self-present and what makes us feel who we are. A person who grew up in a small town in the middle of, I don't know, some random town in Nebraska, or even where I grew up in a town called Hagerstown, Maryland, is going to be completely different than somebody who grew up, say, surrounded in Hollywood, in the Hollywood scene. And our identities would be very much in line with that. So, I mean, society at large, 2016 is a year that's been riddled with violence, hostile politics, and a race war. I mean, this time that we are living in is not the 2016 that I imagine it would be 10, 15 years ago. Could it be because we're losing a national sense of self, that we're losing our national identity? Does America even have a national identity? Have we even taken the time to really think about this? I don't think so. Many would be quick to say that America does have its own identity, but it's in such an archetypal sense that it doesn't really bear the same meaning that it perhaps should, that it doesn't reflect the true complexity or the true depth of those who live here. Think about brand identity. Brand identity, it is a thing. And as an experienced branding and social media strategist, this is what I often think about when I'm developing the identities for brands. However, America is not, it's a lot more complex than that. And I know how America has certain brands that are directly associated with it, such as Gap, Coca-Cola, Ford, Apple. Each of these brands has an associated story behind it. And in marketing, there needs to be clarity behind our stories, behind our narrative identities. In other words, identity developed through our backstories, or the story created for a company. And the stories created for these companies, the ones I just mentioned, are very much in line with the American dream. One could say that the American dream is, in short, the American identity. But what does that even mean anymore? So, on every guest that comes on my show is going to have the opportunity to explore their identities from these multidimensional perspectives, and also have the opportunity to undergo a narrative branding consult. What I just mentioned about those big corporations having brand identities, while they may seem simple, they're actually took a long time to flesh out. When creating brand identities to showcase in social media, for example, we have to consider what social channels best align with those identities. So every guest will have the opportunity to explore aspects of their identities and thoughts that they have on trending topics related to identity, including politics, including other issues surrounding individuals that they might feel are not quite going into the level of identity that they perhaps should, or maybe they are being blanketed by society's expectations. Identity secrets will be revealed by entrepreneurs, celebrities, changemakers, interesting folks of every variety. So you might want to know what's going on with my identity. Well, I for sure have more than one. I consider myself a mega hyphenate of sorts, in the sense that I work across a lot of different professions. But in short, I'm a feminist, Jewish, bisexual, entrepreneur, poet with a caffeine addiction. And that is for sure super encapsulated, super in summary who I am. So if you stay tuned, you might just have the chance to learn more about my identity. So as well, if you have an idea for a segment, issues surrounding identity, or you or somebody you know you think has something to say about identity, you can reach out to me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or directly on WCOBM. And this is not something to be ashamed to discuss. I'm so excited to have this platform to go into some really in-depth issues that most people just don't think apply to them or don't apply to society, or are super simple when in actuality they're really complicated. And maybe if we actually had the conversation about these issues with one another, we wouldn't be in the hostile time that we're in right now. When we come back, we're going to have two interviews. One with therapist Zachary Dunham, who explores a lot of aspects of identity with his clients, and the second with Emmy Chatelaine, creative director and founder of Burkina Bay Accessories. I'm very excited to speak with them both. Thereafter, we will have a raffle drawing, and one of the winners of the drawing will have an on-air narrative branding identity consult. That idea sounds super abstract and obtuse right now, but when you see it go underway, you'll be like, oh, so that's how it works. I'm very much looking forward to it, and we'll be back in a minute.